Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I know this is going up just a little bit delayed from normal, and I do know I missed my Monday video. To give you guys full transparency, I am literally getting legally married in less than 2 weeks, and like a week and a half, and then fully married, like with a big ceremony and stuff, in 2 months. So my life is just super chaotic right now. So I'm trying to make sure that I get at least 2 videos up every single week. Though I might miss one of my normal scheduled days here and there leading up to that. But after the wedding and after the honeymoon, things are going to go back to being a lot more normal, a lot more steady. I know I haven't been responding to as many comments as I used to. I do read every single comment. I actually have it set up on my email, so I get to see every comment the second they are made. So I do read all of those comments. I try to respond to them when I have time, but I just have so much going on. And I'll talk to that at length in another video, but I'm working on trying to get everything up in a timely manner. This is going to be a bit of a short wrap up just because I only made it through 4 novels this month, and every single book in this wrap up either has or will be getting its own individual review. So I'm just going to give little like overviews of everything. Currently 3 of the 4 books do have full reviews up, and then on Saturday I should have a final review up, and then we will begin reviewing books books for the month of August. I am currently reading Lacuna's Point by Tim Meyer. Very excited about that. Read the first chapter last night and it was great, so definitely off to a good start. Alright, first up, I read Riley Sager's latest novel, The Only One Left. If you guys saw my review video on this, you know I adored this book. I'm going to read the inside flap for y'all really quickly and then give you guys just a little bit of my own summary. But it says, at 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope. Now reduced to a schoolyard chant, the Hope family murder shocked the Maine coast one bloody night in 1929. While most people assume 17-year-old Lenora was responsible, the police were never able to prove it. Other than her denial after the killing, she has never spoken publicly about that night, nor has she set foot outside Hope's End, the cliffside mansion where the massacre occurred. Stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. It's now 1983, and home health aide Kit McDeer arrives at a decaying Hope's End to care for Lenora after her previous nurse fled in the middle of the night. In her 70s and confined to a wheelchair, Lenora was rendered mute by a series of strokes and can only communicate with Kit by tapping out sentences on an old typewriter. One night, Lenora uses it to make a tantalizing offer. I want to tell you everything. It wasn't me, Lenora said, but she's the only one not dead. As Kit helps Lenora write about the events leading to the Hope family massacre, it becomes clear there's more to the tale than people know. But when new details about her predecessor's departure came to light, Kit starts to suspect Lenora might not be telling the complete truth, and that the seemingly harmless woman in her care could be far more dangerous than she first thought. If you're a fan of the Lizzie Borden case, this is kind of like, almost like an homage to that case. It draws a lot of inspiration from the way Lizzie Borden was treated, how Lizzie Borden was quote-unquote caught, the uncertainties around that case, and I really adored this. I loved the manner that this novel took place in. It definitely was a setting. It definitely was a setting. It definitely was a character in and of itself. It was very mysterious, very dark, very strange, and I loved how every single character in this novel served a certain purpose in telling this story. For those of you guys who have read Riley Sager before, you know that he is all about his twists, all about his turns, all about blindsiding the reader. That is something I personally love with Riley Sager. I know a lot of people do not like it. I will say I saw one of the major twists coming, but then got blindsided by another large reveal shortly afterward. So I do really appreciate what Riley Sager did with this one. I loved the tone, I loved the characters, and I just devoured this book. It was, again, very similar to some of the Riley Sager novels that I absolutely love, such as The Last Time I Lied and Home Before Dark, and definitely a stronger read, I think, than his past 2 novels, Survive the Night and The House Across the Lake. While those were strong, I think they were some of his weaker works, and I thought this one was just absolutely fantastic. So this was a 5-star read for me. This is a great beach read. There's nothing too in-depth about this, but it will take you on a journey, and it will definitely blindside you in certain areas. Alright, next up, This was one of my most anticipated reads of like the last 2 years, and this is Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. Earlier this year, I read A Child Alone with Strangers, which I absolutely adored, as well as Gothic, which I didn't love as much, but those were both pretty like solid 4-star reads. I would say that I definitely preferred A Child Alone with Strangers significantly more to Gothic, but I really liked the writing and prose and the casual and easy tone of Philip Fracassi. So I will say I was a little stunned when I read this one. I feel like this book had a lot of potential that wasn't realized, and yet the first half of this book was so gripping that I just absolutely wanted to keep reading it. I read this whole thing in like 3 or 4 days, I want to say. This was a 4-star read for me, but just barely. And the reason it is a 4-star read is because I didn't want to put the book down. I needed to know what happened. I thought it was dark, I thought it was macabre, I thought it was well written, and I really loved the first half of the book. However, the second half of the book just fell flat for me, and to me felt like a very, very missed opportunity. I'll read the inside flap of this book for y'all. St. Vincent's Orphanage for Boys. Early 20th century in a remote valley in Pennsylvania. Here, under the watchful eyes of several priests, 32 boys work, learn, and worship. Peter Barlow, orphaned as a child by a gruesome murder, has made a new life here. As he approaches adulthood, he has friends, a future, a family. Then, late one stormy night, a group of men arrive at their door, one of whom is badly wounded, occult symbols carved into his flesh. His death releases an ancient evil that spreads like sickness, infecting St. Vincent's and the children within. Soon, boys begin acting differently, forming groups, taking sides. Others turn up dead. Now Peter and those dear to him must choose sides of their own, each of them knowing their lives and perhaps their eternal souls are at risk. This was marketed to me as like The Exorcist meets Lord of the Flies, and the first half of this novel I will definitely say fits that narrative. I feel like there were a lot of missed moments, and my number one issue with this is what makes Lord of the Flies so scary is the boys in Lord of the Flies choose to do the things that they do. And I feel like one of the things, and this book expresses it, this kind of evil demonic possession moment is what causes the boys in this novel to do terrible things, and they are all possessed. And I really thought it would have been more interesting to have maybe 1 or 2 characters possessed and then convince the other boys to join them out of their own free will. But the absolute lack of free will and the just like controlling nature of this possession kind of killed the horror for me. And I find demonic possession horror to be really, really scary. I grew up Catholic, and a lot of the Catholic undertones in this novel were really, really scary. I found the priests to just be, for the most part, despicable, evil, spineless characters, and I loved that juxtaposition. But I felt that that message was then completely just thrown away for the finale of this novel, and I don't want to ruin it for you, and I'm going to do a full in-depth video of this book for Saturday, where I really talk about my thoughts, and I might even include some spoilers because I really need to just dig into the problems that I had with this book. But the ending really, really killed this novel for me. That being said, there's some great imagery in this novel. There are some really, truly terrifying, terrifying scenes, mainly with characters with B names. We have Byron and Basil and Bartholomew. We have a lot of B names, but there's truly, truly, and Benjamin, I think, truly terrifying scenes in this novel, and it really puts you in that setting. You really feel the isolation, you really feel the confusion, you really feel the terror, but it just didn't stick the landing to me. And that's how I felt about Gothic as well, where I felt like the first half was extraordinary, and then it just nosedived into something completely different. And I keep hoping for a Fracassi book to have the effect on me that A Child Alone with Strangers did, where it was just consistently great throughout the whole thing with just minor issues here and there. But this started off so strong and then just fell off for me, unfortunately. But I will be doing a full in-depth review in that. But I did enjoy this book. I just wish that it had a stronger, more Lord of the Fliesian conclusion. Okay, next up, I also have a full review on this, and this is Briar Dark by S.A. Harian, I'm not quite sure. This is really, really interesting. This is the story, it's kind of done Blair Witch style, like epistle style, like an epistolary, I think that's what you call it. But everything is told through like, not only perspectives, but also through like recordings and journal entries and things like that. But this is the story of a group of hikers who go on an expedition to study a glacier. Like university-funded research expedition to study this glacier. When they get there, the glacier has mysteriously melted, and like the maps that they're using aren't quite lining up with the landscape that they're seeing. The cabin that they're staying in isn't quite what it seems. And as they're out there, we are also getting a paralleled look into this IT guy who stumbled upon these files, basically documenting the exhibition, and he is trying to figure out the expedition, and he's trying to figure out what happened to these researchers and if they are okay. I loved this. It was great survivalist horror. I will say there is a lot of cosmic horror in this, but it is done in a very tame way, and it is kind of spread throughout the book and not just sprung upon the reader towards the end. There is some really creepy, dark imagery. The first third of this book reminds me a lot of the first half of The Ritual by Adam Neville. It really puts you in that kind of weird, uncomfortable isolation, stuck alone where something is going wrong and you're not sure what to do about it or how to get help, but like you're not quite in dire straits yet. I thought this was really, really, really well done. My biggest issue with this book, and the reason this became a 4-star read for me, is because this is the start of a series, and I was not aware of that when I started reading it, and it really bummed me out because I didn't get like 80% of the answers I was looking for, and I was left with a lot of questions afterwards. And I'm really, really invested in these characters. I'm really invested in the story. I'm really invested in the world and the world building that Harian has given us. I think it's very spot on. It's really well done. It's really creepy. And for the most part, it makes a lot of sense. There are definitely some plot holes in this novel where like the landscape and the way that it operates, it just kind of changes, and there's no explanation for how these characters got from point A to point B, and it's not like this big mystery of how did that happen. It just kind of felt like the author didn't know how to write it or just conveniently forgot. So this did become a 4-star read for me, but I will be reading the series most likely, as I am very, very curious. I just hope the book comes out sooner rather than later, because I have all these questions that I want answered fresh in my mind right now, and I don't want to dive into a series like a year after having read the first book and like try and remember all of the issues that I had and all of the little clues that I'm picking up on now but don't want to, you know, forget about later. But I did really like this. This was one of the strongest books that I've received from Twisted Retreat, and it is so beautiful. Like, I love the cover of this book. I love the redesign that Twisted Retreat did. And I'm just very, very happy with that subscription service right now. They've been sending really great books. Legacy Witches, Briar Dark, Sallow Bend. So very, very happy with them. So this was a 4-star read from me. Okay, and then last but not least, I do have an entire video already up on my channel for this one, and this is Along the River of Flesh by Christopher Triana. I've been talking about this a lot on my channel, but this is the sequel to Gone to See the Riverman, which was one of my favorite books of the last several years. I absolutely adored it, and Triana was awesome enough to send me a free ARC, and I devoured this book. I didn't want to put it down, and then I would read a really just absolutely disturbing and depraved scene and be like, I can't touch this book for like hours. So even though I probably could have read this in like a day and a half if I really wanted to, it was so disturbing and hard to get through that I would read for like an hour, have to put it away and be like, I need a breather. And this is actually one of the main reasons why it actually took me quite a while to get through only 4 books this month. This one was really, really difficult to read, but it was a 4-star read for me, and I absolutely adored it. I don't think it was as good as Gone to See the Riverman, but I think it was the best I could hope for a sequel. I loved the setting. I loved being back on the Hollow River. I loved revisiting the Riverman. I don't want to talk too much about the plot because I don't want to give anything away that would spoil the original. But we are back in the same setting. We are still going to see the Riverman, except we have the book focuses primarily on a side character, a couple side characters actually, from the first novel, and then a whole cast of new characters as our main characters. I really loved the decision for Triana to take 4 people on the journey through the Hollow River to see the Riverman, versus last book where we only had 2 and we primarily only focused on 1. This book didn't blindside me the way that Gone to See the Riverman did, but it did captivate me in the same way. I love Triana's use of just introducing a reader to a character and the subtle hints that he gives you onto what their true nature is, and how you have to really unravel the thread to figure out who these characters are. I thought he did a great job, especially with Keith and June. I thought that was fantastic. I thought he talked about a lot of really important topics of today, and really made very poignant, really had very poignant opinions on some of those topics without shoving those opinions down your throat. Like, it allowed you to come to the same conclusions that he clearly has. And I adored it. I thought this is one of those books where, like, the Riverman is just so creepy and yet so interesting and macabre and strange, and you just want to read more and more and more about him. And I really don't know if he's good or evil, but I loved that this book gave us a more in-depth look into the folklore behind the Riverman. I know that somebody commented on my review that they wish that there had been even more, and I absolutely agree with that, but I thought that we got just enough to really carry this story forward. And I loved how Triana kind of wove it in with, like, Southern blues and the history of Southern blues, and I just thought this was a beautifully written book. But again, it should have every trigger warning, like, out there. But no, I adored this. I thought it was a strong follow-up, and I talked very, very in-depthly on this book in my review. So if you really want to hear my full thoughts and opinions on that, I definitely suggest checking out that video. 4 stars, just because it didn't top the Riverman. I'm now comparing Triana to himself when I'm reading his stuff because I like his work so much. So 4-star read for Along the River of Flesh. I really, really enjoyed it. Anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I try to post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays. And if you enjoyed these videos, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you on the next one. Mwah.